Animal Farm, Characters and Themes. The revolts of the animals against Farmer Jones, described by George Orwell, is actually an allegory of the Bolshevik Revolution in October 1917. Orwell decides to tell the story of the emergence and development of Soviet communism in the form of an animal fable. And in this way, he manages to allegorize the rise to power of the dictator Joseph Stalin. Since it is an allegory, each major character corresponds exactly to a person in the Bolshevik Revolution. So let's try to see who the main characters stand for and why. So let's start with the pigs. The first one we're going to talk about is Old Major. Old Major is the pig that actually started the revolution, the one who put the ideas of animalism in the pigs' minds. Well, Old Major stands for two people. He stands both for Marx and Lenin. Let's try to understand why. Well, first of all, we need to say that Orwell, being a democratic socialist, had a great respect both for Karl Marx and also for Lenin, who was the Russian revolutionary leader. Which means that his critique in Animal Farm is not connected with the Marxist ideology underlying the rebellion, but rather with the perversion of that ideology by later leaders. So, Old Major is a very idealistic person. He's the one, a pig, yeah, okay. He's the one who has utopian visions on socialism. And he's also the one that becomes the source of the ideals that the animals continue to pursue even when their pig leaders have betrayed them. Now, the second most important pig is obviously Napoleon, and Napoleon, he is the pig who stands for Stalin. Okay, so Stalin, being Stalin, Napoleon represents the corrupted politician. And if you think about it, if you think of what Napoleon does in the story, you will see how he is never actually interested in the welfare of Animal Farm, but only in his own benefits. And it seems that the only project that he undertakes with enthusiasm is the training of some puppies, the same puppies that will become the fierce dogs that he will use as his personal police. These are the dogs that will chase Snowball away from Animal Farm. So Napoleon, even though he is certainly modeled on the Soviet dictator Stalin, it is also true that he represents, in a more general sense, the political tyrants of any age, especially those that emerged during the 20th century. And you see how Orwell chose the name Napoleon for him, not Stalin, okay? Because Napoleon, again, is another dictator who betrayed the democratic principles of the French Revolution. Right, so let's talk now about Snowball. Snowball, who started as a leader together with Napoleon in ruling Animal Farm, Snowball symbolizes Trotsky. Uh, well, he is certainly very intelligent, he's very eloquent, and he's fervently devoted to the cause of animalism. However, his ideals also lead to his downfall because he is actually unable to stand to oppose Napoleon's brutal force. His ideals are actually devoted to the welfare of the other animals and also to the intentions of improving Animal Farm's infrastructure. But we must also say that Orwell wanted to give him some moral flaws. And if you think about it, even though he is depicted in a relatively appealing and positive light, his character is not idealized. And Snowball basically accepts the superiority of the pigs over the rest of the animals. So what Orwell wants to underline is that it is power itself that corrupts people and pigs in this case. Now, let's talk about the other animals. Even the other animals are the symbols of somebody or some classes. Oh no, sorry, I forgot to talk about Squealer. Okay, let's go back. Squealer, who is actually one of the most important pigs, sorry. Well, Squealer does not stand for a person in particular. He simply stands for propaganda. And we see here again, as we saw in 1984, how Orwell is deeply interested in the issue of propaganda and especially in the issue of language manipulation. Squealer is precisely the pig that abuses language in order to justify Napoleon's actions. So he's very clever and he's capable of saying a thing and its exact opposite to pursue his means to justify Napoleon's line of action. So, for example, well, he uses two techniques basically. He simplifies language to the extreme. For example, when he teaches the sheep the simplified slogan, 4 legs good, 2 legs better, because he relies on the fact that the sheep are ignorant and would not be willing to question anything that he says to them. And also by complicating language unnecessarily. And by doing this, he confuses and intimidates the other animals. For example, when he manages to explain to the other animals that the pigs, who are the brain workers of the farm, need to consume milk and apples not for their pleasure, but exactly for the good of the other animals. So his rhetorical skills simply make him the perfect propagandist. His name is also very significant because squealing, the verb to squeal, refers to the pig's typical form of vocalization. But also to squeal means to betray. And this is exactly what Squealer does when he betrays, thanks to language, he betrays his fellow animals. Right, now let's move to the other animals. First of all, Boxer, the horse. Okay, so Boxer is described as being loyal, hardworking. His mottos are "I will work harder" and "Napoleon is always right." And he is meant to represent the working classes. The working classes who are exploited by the elite, by the people who have the power. But in spite of this, they are so naive that they do not recognize their being exploited. So they are not aware of the fact that they are exploited. So Boxer then represents all the invisible workers in society. And somebody who does not realize how the situation has not changed, because at first he was exploited by humans and then he was exploited by pigs, exactly in the same or even in worse ways. And his pitiful death when he is brought to a slaughterhouse to be slaughtered and to be sold by the butchers simply shows the extent, the dramatic extent of the pig's betrayal. Another significant animal is Benjamin, the donkey. The donkey that stands for the intellectuals. The intellectuals who are intelligent and could do something to change the situation, but decide not to do it. They decide not to take a stand. So they simply ignore what is going on. In the moment when he decides to do something to save Boxer, his best friend, unfortunately, it is too late. Right, the sheep now. The sheep are what the name says. They are sheep-like people, ignorant people who believe in whatever the propaganda tells. So they are ready to simply repeat the slogans that are taught to them without questioning their meaning and without realizing how the slogans are changed according to the people, to the pigs who are in power in that moment. Right. Okay, so that's all as far as the characters are concerned. Obviously, even the other animals stand for specific people in the Bolshevik Revolution, but these are the most important references that you should be able to recognize.